Sounds good.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Unfiltered Vet Discussions. My name is Kelly, and I'm joined by Beth and Peter. You can see more about us at the unfilteredvetdiscussion.com, as well as on the various socials that exist in the world and podcast platforms. And we have a little guest today as
Yes.
well.
Nice weenie.
My ill-behaved wiener dog.
Who's like, who, me? I don't know. Who's me? So anyway, today we are talking about the client experience because Beth is focusing on that in her hospital, and Peter and I definitely have a passion for that in general, and just the way we view the world and how businesses should be run. Peter, you were showing before we hit the magical recording button that there's a slide. So people who are listening, Peter has a slide. And Peter, do you want to, for people who can see the slide, obviously it's very obvious, but Peter, what are we looking at?
Welcome. I have an opportunity to speak frequently. Some people wish I would shut up, but I do have an opportunity to speak frequently. And this slide that's on the screen, and for those of you who are listening, there are actually four assumptions because I added a fourth one. But the three assumptions that I make and that we should make in our businesses are: number one, companion animal veterinary practice is a service industry delivering healthcare, not a healthcare industry trying to deliver service. And we'll dive into that in this podcast. Veterinary medicine is a team sport requiring collaboration with veterinarians, management, staff, industry, and clients. Yes, clients are part of your team. And leadership ultimately defines the vision and direction of the business, and it all starts at the top. So we'll never accomplish one and two unless number three truly believes in all of the above. The fourth assumption is veterinary medicine is a people industry as well. And it's not just all about the animals, because I've only had one experience where an animal actually showed up on its own without its owner. And so, but if you really want to make $1 billion, I'm stopping the share, by the way. If you want to make $1 billion investment, create a microchip with an embedded credit card. So all we have to do is scan the pet, and the credit card pops up as well.
And they can just shove them through the door and just
Yep.
go, call me when
Just
you're
like,
done, right?
yeah. Well,
That's
that
streamlining
yeah.
service right there.
Well, and Beth, that weenie that you had probably could go through one of those bank vacuum tubes, and
Yeah,
you pass it from the
I think she.
car into the bank away.
I don't think she'd like it, but I think she'd fit.
Or how about a drive-up window like they have at the at McDonald's and the like? You just take the carrier, pass it through the window, and keep
Yeah,
driving.
that could work.
Anyhow,
I bet people would do it.
that's probably not the optimal service model, but it is a choice.
There are people that might opt for that customer service model. They might love that.
Absolutely.
Uh-huh.
On the
Uh-huh.
way to work in the morning, they're in a rush. Just throw it through the window and keep moving.
Oh
Yeah.
God. So yes, my practice is focusing on this. So usually at the beginning of the year, well, I should say at the end of the year, we kind of look over our metrics and see where are areas we did well, where are areas we need maybe to spend a little time on. And the thing that was just consistent for my team, and I'm in a bunch of practice owner groups too, like on Facebook and stuff, and it seems to be kind of a universal problem is, we're sort of in a recession and people are pinching pennies and they're spending less. And I think where veterinary medicine is trending right now is we need to put our efforts into making the customer experience a really good one and to build trust and to be spending the time to hit those high notes in their experience from the very beginning to the very end. So that way they are more comfortable to do the things that you're recommending. So that way you are able to provide more service and show the value in the things that you want to do. Like I think that's all kind of where my team is focusing right now. And that our last two staff meetings, that's what it's been sort of us chatting about is how do we do that? How do we build trust? How do we make it a good experience? How do we make sure we're being thorough? We're not missing things that are opportunities to provide better care and also make more money. That's a win-win. So definitely something my practice is talking about right now a lot.
And is it sinking in?
I think so. Yes, I think so. My team is already quite good. So we are just trying to like tweak some of those opportunities. Like, someone comes in for a medical appointment and they're also due for a vaccine and they're not, very ill. So like we could potentially be doing the vaccine. Like that's like a really good example of a time where like if you remember to look and talk about those things, that's like an opportunity. So the person doesn't have to come back. We're not wasting another appointment spot in a month to do that. And then they're getting their pet up to date, but you have to remember to say it. We actually just started doing audits because we use Covet to record our appointments. So I have my management team doing some audits of my room nurses to like listen to their history taking so then we can give them some feedback on like how they're interacting with the client, making sure they're not missing things. So that's kind of like a work in progress at the moment, but that's where we're trying to determine is it working?
hmm And what do you see from the client perspective? Do they ever comment or like on your reviews, like, I love their front desk, or they were so friendly, or, just any of that? You may have not data mined your reviews, but that's always one place to look.
Yeah, we actually do look at our reviews, and we have a lot of really positive reviews, and a lot of them focus on our compassion and our service, actually, which is great. And our clients do talk about like it's a good experience through from the very moment that they call all the way to the end. I would say we have a really good reputation in the community for providing a good experience. And then we do also send out like surveys, like post-appointment surveys. So we get those back pretty regularly, and it's generally pretty positive. But I will say the few times we do get negative feedback, it's usually like communication issues where like we didn't
Mm,
explain something well or we didn't like add proper value to things or go over pricing. Like those are our biggest complaints. So it's kind of like we see both sides of that. Like I think the times where we really hit it is because we provided an excellent customer experience. But the times where we miss the mark is usually communication, like way more than improper medicine or being misdiagnosed or whatever. We have those are like almost never, knock on wood. It's usually like someone's frustrated by a cost concern or something wasn't explained well or they didn't feel heard or whatever. Again, rare, but still
right.
in the same theme. What's
Customer
important?
service, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. And way people want to be heard these days because it's hard. The financial situation is different than it was, during the COVID area, and that had its own communication issues, being curbside and whatnot. But it's hard. And then I was bringing up too what I've just noticed in my conversations with my own client base and just talking to people like at the conventions and things. There is a difference in customer service between independent practices, it seems, and corporate owned or recently purchased practices or vendors, even. Customer service is very different because they have different priorities, right? Not one is wrong or the other, but if you're trying to differentiate yourself, you can really easily do that during customer service opportunities.
Yeah, agreed.
Mhm.
I could speak on this for hours and hours and hours. But let's go back to VMX where the three of us, or all of us, were there. And to me, the word that came out of VMX was affordability. I think
Mhm.
that was a common thread.
Mhm.
And sometimes I wonder if it's affordability or value. And so the value proposition is really about the client experience and less about the doctor experience
Mhm.
because they don't expect, sorry, they don't expect the doctors to be anything more than a doctor, but it's everything that goes and surrounds it that might be of concern. So, is it affordable? Are you getting value from it? And in my opinion, and a lot of research supports this, to a consumer, when it comes down to their doctor, value comes from the time that is spent in the room with the doctor and with the team. And it's not just with the doctor, it's with the team from that standpoint. During the pandemic, we had almost a confrontational relationship with our clients because we were so freaking busy. And so many practices fired clients. Many practices used fees as a gatekeeper to keep clients from coming in. Many practices lost their best clients because we didn't have to be friendly because people were knocking down the doors to come in.
Hmm.
And so we're recovering, and this goes back to the long COVID conversation we had. We're recovering from a period of time where our clients, in many ways, were treated as our enemies, and they really are part of the team. And to kind of put things in perspective, no clients mean no business and mean no jobs. And it's also all about client retention now because acquisition is much harder in a economically challenging time. Kelly, you're seeing this because of businesses that had been part of your family of
Mhm.
Beyond Indigo have been taken away from you and been moved to other um, resources because of change in ownership.
Correct. Yep.
Beth, you're seeing it because even your better clients are probably coming in and negotiating a little bit more.
Hmm.
And so, what is it that we can do as a profession to hear what the needs of our clients, to ask what their needs are, and then to make sure that we either deliver on them or tell them that this is not something we can help them out with, but give them resources to find answers. And then just one other final thought. No, it won't be the final thought. It'll be the final thought for this monologue. Um, Generations need things in different ways.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
you have clients, Beth, that are my age and older, and you have clients that are Kalina's age and younger.
Yep.
Kalina being Kelly's daughter.
Yep.
So, how do you meet all of the different needs of the different generations when we try to keep within a very strict lane line? This is the way we do it here, but that sets up confrontation.
Yeah, it
Um,
doesn't work.
and so the other thing that I want to address is you're talking about the exam room experience. You were talking about the history. There's a whole aspect of the client experience that occurs even before they come in the building.
Yeah.
And that starts with Kelly.
Yep. Because we're your new digital lobby. Your marketing is now your new front door. And people are like, what? I'm like, yep, it is. And to add to the generational thing, I sit on a nonprofit board and we were talking about how to meet the younger members last night. And it was really funny because us older ladies were laughing about it, about the younger, because they don't check email very often. You know, Beth, think your old son. One
Yeah.
woman said, the only way I can get my son's attention in college is by sending his cat on Snapchat and he'll answer me. He won't even respond to me via text. If I send it
Uh,
via text, it's only through Snapchat. And she goes, then I know he's alive. And we all started laughing because she's not wrong, right? Like, and if it's
yeah.
not on TikTok, it doesn't exist, right? Like, that's the future of veterinary medicine right there, coming up and growing up, who will be owning pet animals within the next 5 years, right? So how do you have conversation with that subset of demographics?
Yeah. It's super challenging because I feel like there's so much variety in veterinary medicine already with the different needs of your different clients. And then when you layer in the differences between the generations and what's important to them and how they want to communicate with you, like even that, I feel like can be super challenging. I mean, my practice is pretty good at we just ask. We try to ask a lot, and provide options. Like we focus a lot on trying to meet people where they are because not everyone can do the, gold standard workup. And if you make them feel bad about the fact that they can't do that, then you're destroying any trust that you're trying to build with them in that moment at any part of the process of working with them. So it's really important to make sure that you're trying to meet people where they are and give options. And I find that that style of practice, which is thankfully how I was taught to practice, so I've just always done that. I think it does lend itself well to being able to then work with almost any client, like whether they're someone who wants to do all the things, whether there's someone that has $50 to their name, and then everything in between, the people who value knowing what's wrong versus the people who value just their pet not pooping on the floor. And again, everything in between. Like, I think asking people what is most important to them or what a successful outcome looks like is one of the things that I really lean into when trying to work with a client that I don't know that well to make sure that I'm hitting their values because it can vary so widely depending upon the person.
So, how do you translate that to people who aren't you? How do you translate that to the other doctors on your team? How do you get the same passion on your client service team, your exam room team, your nurses in the back, your animal caretakers? How do you take your premise, your passion, your focus, and make it continuous no matter who is having the experience with the client?
Yeah, that's really hard. That is really hard. We talk about it all the goddamn time. I feel like that is one of the primary ways is we just consistently talk about what that looks like, run through what our appointments should look like from start to finish, run through what good customer service looks like, and talk about the why. Like we spend a lot of time in my practice talking about our core values and why we're here, why we are doing this with the clients. We try to try to just really heavily focus on the team to have compassion in every interaction. Because I think if you have compassion for the person in front of you, it's a lot easier to try to meet them where they are instead of judging them. That's where we run into trouble. And then I think that affects how we treat them, and the client feels that, and then all the other things that spiral negatively from that subsequently happen. But it is really hard. I'm open to suggestion because it is something we still work on every day. And there's absolutely times where I overhear interactions where on the inside I'm like, or like I have a client call with a complaint, again, rare, thankfully. But every time I'm like, man, if we had just like taken a step back and like focused on communication in this moment, I feel like we could have avoided the whole situation. So it is super hard to try to make everyone care quite as much as I do, being the owner of the practice, you know?
I fully agree. So, what do you do when you have a new hire? How do you get them on board and understanding all of this when there's so much they're drinking from a fire hose on day one?
Yeah. That's hard. That's definitely hard. I mean, first off, we hire for cultural fit. So, like
Mhm.
from the very beginning in our interview process, like you could be the most badass nurse in the world, but if I am chatting with you and talking about our core values and what's important to me, and it becomes blatantly obvious that you do not care about the pet in front of you and your values do not align with what's important to me, like I would never hire that person because I would rather hire someone who fits culturally and teach them to do the things that I want them to do than bring in someone that's just not going to be a good fit from the beginning. So that's definitely step one. And then we have a whole training team that they shadow for a month to 2 months, depending on the person. So that way they kind of hang out as an extra person with some of my really strong team members so they can hear the interactions, hear how they greet clients, hear how they do histories, talk about what is important to us at Penridge. And I think that really helps too. So we're not just throwing them in, so they can sort of learn in a less nerve-wracking space where they're not the primary person, like how we do things and why.
Mhm.
So, what happens when the primary person leaves?
He's just poking you today.
It is. What the frick? It's
Oh
because
my
there's no one
goodness.
else here to dilute it. What do you mean when the primary person leaves? Like after they're no longer shadowing and they're like a real
No, no. What
person?
happens if you've got a head receptionist who's done the training for the new receptionist, and for some reason they move
Oh,
out of the area?
yeah.
How does that institutional knowledge get passed down from generation to generation?
Yeah, that's a good question. I guess it's mostly by then just the next people who are the strongest sort of taking over that role of training and teaching. I mean, we have a lot of it written down and we have a lot of protocols and things that go over the ins and outs, but like the cultural side of it, I mean, that's kind of like
Have you
like
ever
a
thought
vibe.
about videotaping it and having it private, not like open for public consumption, but having your trainings videotaped or things like that? Because then there's so much more than words. Words are great. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of words and I love books and I read them voraciously. But there's something when you have video, like just us right now, you get body language, you get conversations, you get tones in the voice, you get the people's enthusiasm or lack thereof. And you can even do like role plays or scenarios, or even take, if a customer is willing to say, do you mind if I videotape this for training purposes? I'm not going to like
Hmm.
blast your face across social media, et cetera, et
Right.
cetera. Then you have this library, regardless if somebody's sick, if they left, if they're no longer with us permanently, like there's all sorts of options that it's, encased in digital format.
Yeah, that's a great idea. We do not do that. But that is a really good idea. We should do that.
Yeah,
Definitely.
and we do that for internal like software stuff because the stuff changes all the time.
Hmm.
And sometimes you can't replicate it once you figure it out. But then you go and you're like, well, if we just video step by step how we do this, then we can, somebody can go press play, do the thing, stop, press, do the thing, press play, do the thing, right? Like you can like eke your way around it.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Because we do have training videos, but for like that, like how to do a task, like how to run blood
Thing.
machines or things
Yeah.
like that. But that is a really good idea to have some videos of like some of my excellent nurses taking histories and what that
Mhm.
looks like because we do role playing and stuff in our staff meetings and in some of our other like training that we do, but having a library of it is a really smart idea.
And with customers, if they'll let you, because
Yeah.
like I'd be like, if my vet said, do you mind if we take a video while we're looking over your pups? I'd be like,
Yeah.
sure, I don't look real great today, so please don't put it out over the internet because I'm
Mhm.
here as a pet parent, not as a marketing person. Um, I would definitely be willing to help out because you can role play all you want, which is great, but you never know what that client's going to do on the other end of the leash
Yeah.
and Peter's
Well,
just sitting there.
this is what I've been talking about for 25 or 30 years. It's just creating a consistent um, situation. I mean, Beth, what you're talking about is the game of telephone.
Yeah.
You pass it on from generation to generation. So by the time you get three generations down, it's nowhere near
Mm-mm.
um, what it was originally. And so what Kelly's talking about is essentially memorializing how you want things done the same way each time, every time without fail, until you find a better way to do things. For those of you who haven't read the E-Myth Veterinarian, start with that. Let's start with the E-Myth by Michael Gerber and E-Myth Revisited. But it's really about creating consistency. Um, Going back to the client service and client experience, I've been reading a lot in the restaurant industry and mostly about Michelin star and five-star restaurants. And
Mhm.
if you haven't watched The Bear on Hulu, which is about the restaurant industry and the transition from a sandwich shop to a Michelin star restaurant, it parallels a lot what we go in veterinary medicine in terms of trying to create a world-class experience for each client as if they were an individual every time they come in. But we get hung up on the skin talk, the puppy talk, and we start to sound rote because we've been doing it three or four times. And we don't look at each client as a unique individual enough. We look at them as a transaction. And this goes back to some of the comments that Kelly was making regarding the impact of transitioning practices from private to other ownership.
Mhm.
Um, your business, Beth, is based on relationships.
Mhm.
Every time a client walks in the door, you either strengthen the relationship or you send them somewhere else. And the talk that I do on the client experience, there are hundreds of touch points, maybe even thousands of touch points in just a single client experience.
Mhm.
And we don't pay attention to the molecular level of that sufficiently because we're so busy being busy.
Mhm.
Small things. How long does the average client have to wait to get into an exam room? How difficult is it to fill the paperwork out in the lobby when they've got the dog on a leash and a cat walks in? You know, what about the payment experience at the end of the visit? There are hundreds of different things that impact every sense, and what I mean is sense, SENSE, hearing, smelling, maybe not taste. Well, yeah, if you have a coffee maker. Um, Touch that we don't always pay attention to. It's the greeting, the eye contact, how the phone is answered. How the phone is answered will determine if a client actually will come in and you'll get a chance to see them.
Or sitting
So,
there listening to the phone
yes.
being answered. Because
Yeah.
yesterday I took my car in to do the old standard oil change business and being checked in at where I was going. And the manager had their door open in the back room. And the last thing I heard is, "Great, just hang up on me."
Hmm.
And I just was trying to get checked in, right? And then my head flipped up because I'm listening to customer, the chatter around me and the customer experience. I'm like, ooh, that one hurt, and we all heard it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. So, I mean, all of these different things are part of impacting the client experience. And just I don't remember where I was speaking. Oh, I was speaking at in Indiana last week, and the fact is that we try to be everything to everybody, whereas the Marriott has 35 different hotel chains to meet the needs of all sorts of different consumers.
Hmm.
Kelly's website company is not going to meet the needs of every veterinary practice out there.
Nope. We
Beth,
know
you're
it.
going to have somebody come in who's got $50 in cash to their name, and another one who's got 50,000 in bills covered in white powder coming in. And so it's how do we meet the needs of all of these different clients at the same level? Because it's really hard, and especially if you check them out at the front desk at the same time. So
Yeah.
this is why service has got to really be a focus, because if you don't provide service, then they don't get value. Then they just think, why am I spending my money at the veterinarian? Because I can go take a vacation in Minneapolis in the middle of January um,
At 25 below,
at 25
standing.
below.
50, it's 50 below wind chill. So if you want that experience, we just offered that here. So I know
So,
it's
That's
real hard.
horrible. That's
Yeah.
terrible.
so if you want to have some fun, Beth, send your staff out as a mystery shopper to other hospitals and let them see how bad or good it is in practices that are around you. Take the hospital cat and get it over vaccinated at different places around. Take that little wiener dog and have it have an anaphylactic to its lepto
Oh
shot.
God.
Have some mystery calls come in, but start to hold people accountable to measurable outcomes. In other words, if you did a net promoter score and the net promoter score wasn't a 9 or above, why? And it's probably not you. And it may not be your one other doctor, but it could be three of the other doctors that you have. It may not be Susie at the front desk. It may be Jane at the front desk. So your messaging needs to be consistent, and everybody's got to be singing from the same page of the hymnal. And
Oh,
that's
yeah.
the hard part, is how do you get everybody rowing in the same direction? Did you ever you've seen crew boats on in Philadelphia on the rivers there?
Yeah.
You're the coxswain, and you've got to get everybody with an oar stroking in cadence. Otherwise, the boat sinks.
I'm going to add, Peter, to it might be Susie or Jane at the front desk. What we get to see sometimes, and this isn't you, Beth, but other people who might be listening, if your reviews are saying the front desk person is mean and you have more than one of those reviews, or X doctor is horrible, or whatever, if they're naming out people or categories in the hospital that are on the struggle bus, don't ask your marketing company to remove the reviews. Work on the staff that's
Yes.
having the problems, because first of all, it's hard to remove reviews these days, but it doesn't solve the problem. More reviews with the same issues is going to come back around because you haven't fixed the problem with that customer service aspect.
Yeah.
Well,
Agreed.
and reviews. generally are one end of the bell-shaped curve or another.
Right.
You don't get mediocre reviews.
No.
And so sometimes finding other ways like Net Promoter Score or other non-online surveys just to get a feel for things as well. But
Yeah. But listen
I
to
think
them. Don't try to
you're
like cover them up. Like don't be like
Yeah.
a dog burying a bone, right? Like just
Yeah.
don't take the red flags
Take
as they're coming
action from the
to you.
reviews. Yes.
Yes, or your net promoter, or just, you know, people at church saying, "Gosh, we heard you're like front desk person struggling. What's up?" I mean, perk your ears up on that one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
the other question, Beth, is ask the audience to solve the problem. If there is a problem, ask them to help define what they would like to see.
Hmm.
Because I do find it difficult sometimes for owners to, would you like to be a receptionist in your own hospital?
I probably wouldn't be that good at it.
That's my point. I've asked that question hundreds of times when I
Yeah.
speak, and most veterinarians are the worst freaking receptionists.
Yeah.
But you also they can't explain to you how difficult it is to deal with Dr. Weinstein when he's calling to make an appointment because he wants it at a specific time with a specific doctor in a specific exam room. And every time I call, the same questions get asked by three different people because nobody happened to note that he only wants to see Dr. Beth on Tuesdays at 9:30 a.m. in exam room 2.
Yeah. Which
You
is true.
know,
And we have a lot of clients like that. And we try really hard to make those notes because that does make a difference. Like, I feel like if you are a client who's been coming there for 10 years and you get some new person on the phone, like, that is one of the most frustrating experiences when you're like, I only see this veterinarian. I have a dog that's really reactive. I have to go right into this room. And the person doesn't know that. And you have to like go through the whole thing. Like, I definitely empathize that that is really frustrating, which my team is really pretty good about putting like pop-ups and alerts in so that we try to avoid that because I that would infuriate me if I was that client too.
do you have, sorry, Kelly, but do you have software that allows the phone number of the client to come up on the screen when clients are calling in? So theoretically, if Kelly were your receptionist, she could say, "Hey, Mrs. Jones," and pull up the chart, et cetera, instead of, "And who are you and why are you calling to interrupt my day?"
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. We have a few really good clients that my front desk absolutely knows their phone number and they they will answer like that. Hey, Nancy. We have a couple good clients. But yeah, it does pop up with the number and the name a lot of times too, which I feel like they sometimes utilize, but that is one of those like top-notch experience points earning situations for sure.
I had a client whose front desk staff knew the license plate numbers of people coming in that day so that they'd have everything ready for Miss Jones because they knew the license plate number. I don't know how they tracked it, but they were talking about that as part of their unique marketing experience, for the hospital. And I'm like, wow, that takes it like from here to here in the bar, right? First
You
of all,
want me
you
to take
have to
it,
be able to
want
see them driving up, but
Yeah.
yeah,
me
yeah,
to take it another level?
sure.
So Beth, on your PIMS, can you take pictures of the pet so that they're on the screen? I
Yes.
want PIMS to allow you to take pictures of the client so that you can look at the screen
Um,
and recognize the client as they're coming through the door and greet them by name instead of saying, "And who are you?" So
yeah.
imagine if you had a new receptionist and saw Kelly coming through the door and said, "Kelly, you've got our 10 o'clock, right, with Bluto." And it's like, it's those value adds that
Yeah.
make a big difference, but you'd have to get obviously a release from the client to be able to do that. But this is taking it to the next level.
Yeah.
And it makes each visit, each client feel special. And we have to do that when we're dealing with affordability, when we're dealing with pushback from clients, when we're dealing with competition from other practices around at all sorts of different levels. Um, and I think that your staff probably needs a little bit of a reminder that clients are not an enemy. Some
Mhm.
of them are, but that without clients, they don't have jobs.
Hmm.
Without clients, you can't take care of their pets. And that clients are not coming in for to see the doctor. They're coming in for an experience. And you are the one providing the experience.
Mhm.
Yeah. And that's basically what we're focusing on right now. I talked a bunch about Disney and their assertive friendliness experience that they're all trained in, which I just find that to be such a fun concept of trying to provide glimmers or try to provide pleasantly surprised experiences where you just go above and beyond. Like those are definitely the things that I think make the difference. And a lot of times they'll earn you like a client for life. Like if you go above and beyond and you really impress them, that makes such a huge difference of like client retention and building trust and then them following your recommendations. Like, and sometimes it's really not that hard. It's just kind of taking the time to care to make sure that it's a really good experience or to provide a particular interaction that pleasantly surprises someone. Like those are definitely the things that I'm trying to do with my practice right now that we're trying to focus on just to make it, you know, that much better ever for every client.
Have you read Unreasonable Hospitality by Will Guidara?
I have not, but it is on my to be read pile and has been for a while.
All right. Well, if this is your focus now, then move it up.
Move it up.
Okay.
Okay.
And give it to all your doctors and your manager.
Okay.
And then there's some videos and other things that he's got. But if you're focused on hospitality, then put everything else behind it and start to look at the resources that'll help you deliver on hospitality.
Yeah.
Well, let's wrap it
Definitely.
up. Hopefully everybody got a few tips about, the customer experience and what to do. But I would think the very first thing is just look at it from the eyes of the customer, right? And
Yes.
just see it from their point of view versus your point of view and how much bandwidth you have. Because just like you were saying, Beth, if a client has $50 or $500, if you have 10 minutes or a whole year to work on this, there's something you can do, right? Even little bits to a lot of bits, there's something you can do. Mhm. And with that, we'll say adieu, which rhymes, right? Until the next Unfiltered Vet discussions. Talk to you all later.